Yes, welcome yet again, everyone. If you're seeing us live, of course, that can mean only one thing. Well, it means more than one thing, but the main thing it means is that it's noon Eastern time on a Wednesday. It is time for the High Noon Hemp Show on a very gloomy day here in the Cincinnati area. Of course, you can find us in many places if you want the video on demand or live, of course. Check us out on Facebook, the Temptations Beach Facebook page, also the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel, and at Temptations on Twitter. Of course, the podcast, Podbean, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Search the High Noon Hemp Show. I'm Stoner Jesus. He is Beach. He's high above the Temptations in Sharonville, Ohio, at the Hemp Quarters. How are things this week? I know it's kind of a sad week in Temptations, in the world of Temptations Beach. So, what's going on?
It is true. It is a sad week, and just to get it out of the way, just remember that the FDA has not evaluated this show for safety or efficacy,
That's right. Soon.
and we'll go ahead and read and recite the I pledge allegiance to the hemp fields of America and to the soil in which is planted one seed under the sun with responsibility, sustainability, and thrivability for all. Um, yes, it's a sad week. It's been coming for a while, and I've kind of known about it. But yes, we're closing the O'Brienville location, the what I would call the hemp flag store. I suppose we've been there for 28 years. It was an inevitable in a sense where my landlord. I think with issues anyway, they've decided to sell. And I knew once they decided to sell that they would want me out. And so
Wow.
that's basically kind of how it went down. And I'm not gonna lie. I got a little behind. It's been a tough couple years. In the past, it was easier to work with Miss Laffoon, but with I knew it was going to kind of come down to it. And as sad as it is, I have to admit that I don't know if that store was ever going to really recover from everything.
Yeah.
It's been, the numbers there have been not good. And of course, everybody, I feel like, Josie, don't get up there. I feel like, um, that was the store that everybody targeted when the CBD stuff was all going down. And so everything was opening up around. Not that you're fine. Not that was, the real reason, all in all. But I just think that our time in O'Brienville, after all those years, is it really. And again, I have been planning on it, and it was short notice, but I've known that this was going to happen for a while. But I didn't. There was nothing that was going to change anything, so there's no reason to talk about it any sooner than it's going down this week, and we're closed there now. We may be open there for a little while tomorrow. If anybody wants to come in and check it out one last time. But we're moving all the merchandise over to Northside. That location is super close, so it's not going to be that much of a further drive for anybody that was going to the O'Brienville location.
Mm.
And it's sad in one sense, because again, that store has been there forever. I mean, that is like a landmark to O'Brienville, which is ironic. There's and it's been, you know, we were not welcomed in the beginning, and then we were really, I was involved with the neighborhood business association and everything for a long time, and then these people, and this is the part of people that I always said that when the building went up for sale, they would buy it just so they could kick me out. um, they just totally, in my opinion, destroyed the O'Brienville Business Association. I don't even know if it still exists anymore. I don't even know if they have monthly meetings. I have not heard anything about it for a long time. All over greed and property. Nothing to do with actually trying to make O'Brienville the business district better, but just to control it. And since then it's been, they've done a little bit of our job. They're bringing cooler places in. There's a tattoo place in O'Brienville now. And so, but I just don't think that, it is what it is. And, um, again, as much as it breaks my heart, I'm really kind of relieved. I
Yeah.
guess change it was time for change. It was, I have been contemplating, for a while, just because of the way things are working out, closing one of the two city stores, what I call the city stores, O'Brienville or Northside. This kind of, in one sense, forced my hand. In the other, it kind of made the decision not for me. But in, I'm actually more relieved about this one than I was about closing the Dayton store. Um, because in Dayton, I had no alternative. I couldn't send people 5 miles down the road to another
Yeah.
Temptations, and that really broke my heart more than anything. Was in Dayton, but that was what it was too, and so it uh, North Side is about to be filled up, and if you normally go to the O'Brienville store, you've got North Side or still Sharonville if you want to go up to Sharonville and get your hemp goods. And a lot of our stuff is online if you want to shop there. So, and part of my heart is breaking, but part of my heart, the other half of my heart is breaking, but the other half of my heart is like relieved. In all honesty, um, I wish them well. In the with that building, it's got a lot of fixing up to do. We tried not to bug them about stuff that wasn't essential, and in fact, most of the time, I fixed everything that was, except for the last couple of years, where it's been more them, and it's worked out okay. But anyway, I'm relieved in a sense, and it kind of comes at the right timing anyway for everything else that's going on with us, and so there it is. Yep, O'Brienville. The storm might be getting us. I know it was just storming here a second ago.
Yeah, I can hear you. We can all hear your
Are
audio,
you there?
but your
Are you
video's
frozen?
been frozen for a little while now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm not frozen on my monitor, but you're frozen on my monitor.
Weird, you're frozen on mine. I can still hear everything you're saying. That is weird.
We
Wonder what's
can
going
keep
out
on
live.
until
Let's see if I can see what's going on live.
um, I hadn't done I didn't log into good old YouTube like I should, um, just to make sure that we're on there. But let's go ahead and see if we can jump into the product spotlight anyway. Um, Four from the store, one from my door. The first one is, and I just wore this hat recently. I've actually wore two versions of this hat recently, just because I've been going to concerts. But this is my "Make America Hemp Again" hat. This one is at the Sharonville location. So if you want to make America hemp again, I'm definitely going to be focusing on um, election stuff. We're only a month away here in Ohio. We got a big legalization here in Ohio. I don't really feel like there's any hemp stuff on the ballot, uh, but you know, we will be. It's that time of year, one way or another. Um, and so, get your "Make America Hemp Again" hat. And this will be, we'll see what happens with next year's whole shebang. I might be wearing that hat a lot again in mockery of things. We'll see. We'll see about that. Um, how about the hacky sacks? Get yourself a hacky sack. Summer is not over. Fall might be here, but I don't know if summer's over. Although, it's so kind of funny, we just got into autumn or fall, and this was the first time that it's rained, but it finally did rain because I don't think it rained for like a month
Yeah.
here. So, anyway, if you're a hacky sacker and you wish to hacky sack, come on in and get yourself a hacky sack. We also have some of the high flyers still up on the shelf. And again, this is it's what I call a soft frisbee. I hate to use the word frisbee because that's a product name. That's why I call them high flyers. That's why when we made these at Planet Everywhere Manufacturing, we called them high flyers. And I think I don't know if that's what this company, I have to go and check the other side because it should say, I have one right here. Mine says support hemp farmers. Um, Trying to see if they have I thought they had like a name, something flyer. Freedom flyers. That's what they call them. They call it. So get yourself a freedom flyer. I like that. I think they're like, they're kind of kid friendly
Hmm.
because you can hit, if you don't catch it and it hits you, it's pretty soft. I'm not saying if you took one to the face, it might not hurt a little bit because of the hemp seed in there, or I don't know if these have hemp seed in them. We put hemp seed in ours when we made ours. We used hemp seed in the outer part, um, but I don't know that these guys, the Freedom Flyer people, are using theirs in that. But it's good stuff. Good stuff. It's good, hacky sacks and a soft frisbee. Those are good. That's good camping. Good camping stuff. Take out camping with you.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it would be harder to get one of these stuck in a tree. No, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be harder or easier to get one of these stuck in a tree or not. But anyway. And the last one from the store is the selection of hemp honey soaps. I was just reading yet another article about soap and hemp and how good it was for the skin as a base or as a part of. It's not the all of the soap, but it's much better for the skin than probably a lot of the stuff you would buy. Well, any petroleum-based soap um, is not good. I don't think. It's still they still clean, I suppose, so they're not bad. But get yourself some honey hemp honey soap. Um, and then the one from my door. There's four from the store. The one from my door are my towels. I think I've shown some of these. I don't know if I've shown all of these, but this is basically my collection of towels. So the one in the top left is like a super thick, almost terry cloth, not quite terry. Um, and that's my main bath towel. The checkered one closest to us on the right, more or less, that is one of my Fremont hemp towels, and I have had those towels for probably 20 years. This one is solid, no holes. I have one small hole that I was getting in one of these, and again, those were my daily towels for years and years and years and years and years and years. I mean, daily bath towels, um, and again, holding up unbelievably well. And then the two on the bottom, those are the newer hemp. I'm sorry, Enviro Textiles, and I'm not sure if you can still get those at Enviro Textiles or not. I think they were somewhat limited at the time, but they may be back in production of those again. Um, and they're thinner, but still do the job. Still do the job. And so uh, when I get done using my hemp shampoo and my hemp soap in the shower, I dry off with my hemp towels. And there you have it. Four from the store, one or four from my door here on the High Noon Hemp Show.
Indeed.
Uh,
Which, of course, brings us to And I'm still yet to hear from the Guinness Book of World Records people. I feel like we need to ramp up the campaign to get the Guinness Book of World Records to recognize Beach's hemp collection, his hemp clothing collection, because I feel like it would be unbeatable if they could just see the glory of it. How to do that, I don't know. Tweeting doesn't work. I guess maybe there's various emails. Maybe we can call them. Maybe just send an old fashioned letter. I haven't written a letter. I don't know how long to someone. Just sit down and write a letter to Guinness to tell them, look, you have to recognize this and the greatness of it. We've been talking about it for 5 years now, over 5 years. It is the beachwear segment. It showcases Beach's massive hemp clothing collection. What I submit is the largest hemp clothing collection in the world for at least a single person. And I think we proved, like I said, we have 5 years of proof that we can send them. And if they want to come to Cincinnati and maybe examine it themselves, whatever it takes, we're going to get the recognition one of these days. And if not, we'll just keep talking about it. Either way, it is time for the beachwear segment. When I ask Beach what he's wearing, because I say, what are you wearing, Beach?
That's right. I think it would be well worth the trip for a Guinness representative
That's
to
right.
come and say, "Hey, Beach, what are you wearing? And what have you worn?"
We have to get them to
That's
say it
just
on
one thing.
camera. Say, can you just say for us real quick, Beach, what are you wearing, Beach, on camera for us? Let's get a Guinness to do that. That'll be great. And I'll
Yeah.
use that for the show.
Right on, right on. Well, today, old school, new school. Got on the old lid there up top is my that's a Hemptations embroidered here, planted everywhere. Fair hemp hat. My shirt. That's old school. That's the Menastash. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's a Native American term. I don't know if I've ever pronounced it correctly in the 25 years that we've been open because they have this product line of stuff has existed. And I don't know if he's still making stuff under the, I used to call it Manastash because that's how it's spelled. But I do believe it's more like Manastahash or something, kind of, I don't know. But again, this shirt is every bit of 20 years old for sure and shows no sign of wear whatsoever. Um, and so, it's quality. I only have a handful of clothing items that honestly have fallen apart over the years, which I think is a testament to hemp, again, as the fiber that we've always touted as the strongest natural fiber on the planet. Um, and so there you have it. Uh, Down below there, I've got my Prana shorts being held up with a good old Hempies, an old school Hempies belt. In the pocket, we could write that letter. We could write that letter with our Green Springs Technology pens. Um, if I can go back to the old days and try to remember how to write a letter, like you said, but that's what I would use. It would definitely be written with my hemp pen because that is what I'm wearing almost all the time. That's the hemp pen, or one of my hemp pens, is consistently with me almost every day. Um, then down below or underneath my Prana shorts, I've got some I Love Bad briefs. I found those on Amazon, I believe. Um, my no-show socks are the Good Morning no-shows, which I don't know or I don't think they're available anymore. Um, and I think when I found these, I'm not sure what the percentage is. It was it might have been in the teens as how much hemp were actually in them. But actually, these might have had more than the other ones that I had. But they do contain hemp. And then, of course, the Saucony Jazz, which I love to wear because the Jazz line of Saucony's is the vegan line. And so I'm pretty sure that if it's a Saucony Jazz, it's vegan. Chances are at this point that it's hemp because I think that's their favorite fabric to use for their vegan line. And I've got a couple different color schemes in these. I haven't checked to see if they've released any recently. I haven't seen any, but it wouldn't surprise me if there aren't some new cool colors of the Saucony Jazz shoes out there in hemp. So there you have it. That's right. What are you wearing, Beach? This is the over 200th outfit, 230 almost outfits. And of course, there's some crossover there. Um, you know, I suppose, and once again, I do have the world record for consecutive days of wearing a different hemp shirt and wearing a different hemp hat. Both in the, I want to say I went like 161 days for one and 168 days for the other. Um, but it's almost 6 months, and I can't believe I just didn't try to go. So I feel like I'm sure I could have gone 6 months either way. Um, because that was almost actually that was almost maybe I did do 6 months, almost 6 months, but that was about half a year for both. So I went an entire half a year um, wearing a different hemp shirt and wearing a different hemp hat, uh, and so it's it says a lot, I suppose, for how much hemp stuff I have. Whether a human really needs that much hemp stuff, I don't know, but I have it, so I might as well brag about it, even though
That's
I try to be humble. One of these days I'll do my hemp shoe challenge, just to see how many days I can go wearing a different pair of hemp shoes. Um, I'm sure that again, if I did it right, pants and or shorts, that'd be interesting to see. Maybe next spring or late winter, I'll start that so I can wear get all the long stuff out of the way, and then get to the shorts. There are more hemp records to be broken, and I challenge anyone out there to either try to break the two that I currently own, a different hat or a different shirt every day, or to make your own. Let's go ahead and start the different pair of shoes, see how long you can go.
yeah.
And then I will immediately break that record if you set it. Anyway, so there you have it. What are you wearing, Beach? Now you know on this yet another High Noon Hemp Show Wednesday. Not a whole lot. Oh no, I forgot. We do have. Speaking of elections, I do believe that the commercial that I sent over has something to do with the old Ohio Rights Group, possibly. We'll see. Let's take a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back with the news.
Voters, this is a call to action. Get your signature on an Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment petition and help get the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment on the ballot in 2014. This is a therapeutic cannabis and industrial hemp issue. One plant, many uses. Go to ohiorightsgroup.org. That's ohiorightsgroup.org to get the facts. You can also go to either Hemptations location to sign the petition. Help make Ohio a better place.
There you go.
And ironically, two locations there. So that was before we had opened the Dayton and uh, Northside store. How crazy is that? But there you have it. Of course, did not get enough. So we did not get enough signatures because we didn't have the money. The only way to get enough signatures in the state of Ohio is to have a lot of money and pay to do it. We did, I mean, exceptionally well for basically being truly grassroots movement. But once again, came up short with getting it on the ballot. And then I think it was the next year that they put the money into um,
Issue 3.
issue whatever it was, issue three, which was quite the craziness. Um, and then, of course, here we are. We did finally get the state finally did legalize industrial hemp. And so we've been growing industrial hemp for, I don't know, 3 years. It hasn't been that long, 3 years, 4 years. We were kind of late, not real late to come along, but we weren't when it became legal in Ohio. And so we could have been a lot sooner. We could have been, one of the original industrial hemp growing states when it became legal in the 2014 Farm Bill, 2013, 2013, 14, something like that Farm Bill. I think it was 13, and then 14 is when we started growing in the United States again, as far as industrial hemp goes. So, and speaking of farm bills, I haven't really heard too much, but I did hear a rumor, in a good way, that one of the things that they are trying to change in the current industrial hemp farm bill part, or farm bill part of the industrial hemp part of the farm bill, um, is that they're going to take out the mandatory testing. Um, and so, from what I saw, and this is again the way it should be, is if anything, if there is any question to what a hemp farmer is doing, then they would be susceptible to a visual inspection of their fields. Okay. Um, After a visual inspection, if it was still believed that they were doing something hanky, or that they were trying to grow something that they weren't supposed to as far as their cannabis goes, then testing would be done, um, on the plants. And and this is the mandatory testing thing is ridiculous. Again, it is treating it criminally, when, for all accounts, there is no criminal intent with growing industrial hemp. Um, I also believe that it's the end product that really matters, and there shouldn't be any concern over growing for grain or fiber one way or another. This is more stuff that's in place because of the growing for flower, CBD, CBG, CBN, whatever it may be, THCA. Um, and so uh, it doesn't matter how much THC is in the industrial hemp if they're growing for fiber or grain. Doesn't matter. It's a mood issue. It doesn't get into the grain, so it's not going to get into the food product. It's not in the fiber or the herd. If they're building a house out of the herd, there's no THC in there to be concerned about. If they're making clothing out of the fiber, there's no THC in there to be concerned about, no matter what the THC content is. You take the highest 30% THC cannabis plant, okay, and you test seeds from that flower, or you test the herd or the fiber, um, for THC, and if it's been cleaned, I mean, there might be some on the surface, on the outside, but if it's been cleaned, whether it's the seed or the herd, um, and they usually shake the seed to get all debris off the outside, then again, there's no THC, zero. Science says zero, and I would like to see a. I don't think anybody's really done this anytime recently. Is to actually test seeds to see if there is even a 0.0001% THC in the seed. Because I think I think if there is, it is so small that once again you'd have to eat like 4 billion pounds of seed to fail a test. Maybe again, I don't believe, from what science has always told me, not the courtroom that said that the fireman got away with eating food and that's why he tested positive, blah blah blah. I don't know how they got away with that science, but there's been no science ever that's shown there's any THC in the seed, regardless of whether it comes from industrial hemp or what they call marijuana. um, and that's the science of it. If anything, maybe we just open it up so that there's you just go buy your seed for fiber, you go buy your seed for grain, nobody bothers you. Now, if you're buying your seed for flour, for the CBD or the CBN or whatever, maybe there's maybe one extra step. Just like I don't even think there should really, in all honesty, I don't think there should be an extra step for that either. But I understand, I suppose, their concern there because when you're growing for fiber, and this has always been our argument as industrial hemp people, if you're growing for grain or fiber, you can't grow cannabis for marijuana in that crop. You can't do it. It will destroy the quality of the marijuana, so to speak. Okay, so people wouldn't do that. Now, if you're growing cannabis for the flowers, the CBD, the CBN, argument kind of goes away. You could easily, because that's more horticulture. That's more botany than it is farming, so to speak. And those are individual plants, not close together, for the most part, growing for the flower. And so you could easily grow marijuana in the middle of that crop, and it would be very, very difficult to tell the difference. Um, you know, and so I can understand the concern there, um, but and if we need any extra laws regarding industrial hemp, it's only for the growing of the flower. If it needs to be tested or it needs a special license, only for the growing of the flower at this point. And then we go from there. Uh, and so we'll see. We'll see. They should be getting done with this farm bill, and then they would probably vote on it next year, even though they should be voting on it this year, because it's like in every 4 years and they vote every five or something. But we're on the fifth year because 2018 was when the last one passed, took industrial hemp off the controlled substance list, which was the biggest part of that, and also clearly stated that anything made from industrial hemp is 100% legal, which gives us all some of these great products that we have now with the Delta 9 and the THCA and the Delta 8 and all that stuff. It's very, very popular. Um, and doing for people what they want, and they don't have to go to the dispensary. They don't have to go to a different state, at least here in Ohio. It's 100% legal, for the most part. So, looks like North Carolina is going to pass a new law that will actually regulate kratom as well. Kratom. But it's CBD, Delta 8, and other hemp derived products. And so they're going to, I don't know. I think from what I saw is they're going to make you have a special license if you want to sell this stuff. Again, it's so stupid. I don't understand. To me, this is extortion. Okay, they're extorting these licenses from businesses for selling something that's 100% legal. All these items, again, I don't even know how they can include the kratom. 100% legal products, but now you got to buy a license for it to carry it. And I honestly don't, I don't understand how that's legal. But it's the government and they'll do anything. And so we'll see. I think it passed in the first round of voting in North Carolina, and we'll see what happens if the bill does go through. Most more than likely, we'll see a challenge almost inevitably, because that's what happens with these things. They are challenged pretty quickly. So we'll see. Chicago is going to try to do something with Delta 8. And again, I don't understand why Chicago. I mean, it's like, I feel like Illinois went legal, and then Chicago is like a shop opened up on every corner in some neighborhoods to sell over the counter Delta 9, THC, whatever you want to call it, products. So I don't know why they care about Delta 8. In all honesty, that's quite amazing. Um, and there's another thing. I think Wyoming, and so we're now all of a sudden seeing more states trying to get involved with the Delta 8 thing. And I think what we're going to see is now that what they're going to do is they're going to call them like intoxicating hemp derived whatevers. And so if they believe, how do they know? How do they know it's intoxicating? In all honesty, it's like we know very little about most of these things to begin with, and all of a sudden because they're popular and people like them, oh, they're intoxicating, blah blah blah. So it's kind of interesting how that's all going to work out, but that's kind of where places are going. And again, most of the states where they're challenged, uh, or where they write these laws, they end up getting challenged, um, and so we'll see what happens there. Apparently, in Oklahoma, they need to change their their hemp laws for the better because apparently right now it's kind of controversial if you wanted to grow for fiber. It's like the and again maybe it is because of the testing that's mandatory for all hemp in Oklahoma, which is based mostly around CBD growing. Um, and maybe once again that's kind of being challenged by those that want to grow for fiber or grain because it's too much. Again, there's zero reason why in Oklahoma, and I don't know what their license law is, or Ohio, which I do know where their license is $1,000 license to grow industrial hemp for anything, to grow for fiber or grow for grain, which is again ridiculous. It's stupid. It's the dumbest thing ever that a state can do. In Kentucky, $35. Uh, Ohio, $1,000.
Wow.
Why would you grow hemp in Ohio when you can go buy property in Kentucky? And it's so not, and that's the way it should be. I mean, again, if there has to be a licensing fee to keep track of all the industrial hemp in the state, I think $35 is okay. I think farmers are more likely to spend $35 for an application fee to grow a plant than they are 1,000. I don't care how much money they're going to make on it. Doesn't matter. It's just ridiculous. And that money, that $1,000 licensing, that profit goes away when you're growing for fiber and grain. That profit is only there if you're growing for CBD flower, and that profit is going away pretty quickly because there's so much CBD. We have an overabundance of CBD now, and so that's why we are continuing to see those prices drop a little, not a lot. I think in the next couple of years we're going to see another price decrease in CBD because there's so much of it out there and available. Other than now, they're figuring out that 0.3% THC, which is allowable, and everybody's like now instead of trying to get rid of that 0.3% to make it all easier to deal with, they want it to be that 0.3% because they can legally sell that 0.3% THC Delta 9, which is what we have on the counter, 100% legal extracted from industrial hemp. The only form we can't have it in is flower because then the THC content would be too high.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take that isolate out, put it in a gummy, put it in a tincture, put it in anything else, 100% legal. 100% legal. So, and better priced in Temptations than I think in some of the dispensaries, from my understanding.
Yeah.
That's why we love a good loophole, and that's why I've always stayed ahead of the industrial hemp laws. Um, so we know that's it. Um, Here's a picture of a wall being built in the house by the Lower Sioux Indian community. And they're saying this is going to be the first hemp house in Minnesota. Minnesota, where they have and I'm wondering, I don't know if they're affiliated with or working with, but that's where the big hemp maze was in Minnesota, and usually is every fall. And in fact, I think we already missed it. I think they must have already done the harvest, and they've already done the hemp maze this year. I think I reported on it. And so, but anyway, as you can see, this is um, kind of, I don't know how they're really doing this, if they're manually stacking this or they spray it in. So, just like any insulation, because this is more acting as insulation as far as the walls go. Of course, these are not load bearing walls. That structure's on the wood and the rest. They're just filling in, which makes it very well insulated. It will help. It will help keep the house warmer in the winters of Minnesota. Um, and I don't know if summers get really hot in Minnesota. I don't know for sure, but if they do, then it will help keep it cooler in the summer months as well. That's it's a proven fact with hemp insulation, especially when used in this more solid crete. This is more of the solid, hard forming crete um, than your fiber insulation, uh, which can also be used in certain instances if you so desire. So, first hemp house in Minnesota. There it is. And I was going to show a picture of the outside. It's just a regular, like you. There's nothing special about it. And from my understanding is they're actually building this house as kind of an emergency house. I don't know what that meant. Like I don't know if that meant like families that in an emergency situation needed somewhere to go, or if there was an emergency and everybody needed somewhere to go, they're going to come. It's not that big, but it is I believe a tribal effort amongst the community of Native Americans. Um, and so, anyway, more hemp construction every day, every day. Um, uh, article, is hemp the superfood vegetarians have been waiting for? Like, well, it's been around for a while now, and if they're not waiting for it, they just don't know about it. It's not a new thing, honestly. I think the superfood, I think hemp being described as a superfood in public, to me, that discussion's been around for at least 10 or 15 years, and that kind of really started after we had to sue the DEA because they were going to go confiscate all the hemp food in every grocery store in the United States at the time, about 20 years ago, because we couldn't say 0% THC, or we wouldn't say, and part of that argument is if you don't know, there is a certain percent of allowable things in our food that you don't want to know about. And again, it may be parts per million, but even if there's like one tiny part per millions of THC, that's not enough to make a difference. And I still don't think there is. But either way, sued the DEA, the Hemp Industries Association, won, and what came out of that was the source law. Okay, and the source law basically started all this hemp stuff, which said that if it came from industrial hemp, then it's industrial hemp. If it came from marijuana, then it's marijuana. All things that come from industrial hemp are legal. All things that come from marijuana are not federally. This is a federal thing. And so at that point, winning that and opening those doors at all the grocery stores, all of a sudden, all the department stores, whatever it was, the stigma of carrying hemp based products, whether it was lotion, shampoo, food, or what, kind of went away. And that's where we kind of really started to see the first real mass marketing of industrial hemp products. The smaller markets had gotten, all of a sudden it was acceptable and it was okay. They weren't worried about the DEA coming into the Whole Foods and grabbing up their hemp pancakes and their hemp waffles and their hemp tortilla chips and all the stuff that was there. Uh, and so, that really helped. And then, all of a sudden, hey, let's look at the nutritional value of this. Hey, this is what we would call a superfood. And I hated that superfood term. But I get it too. I mean, it does signify that whatever it is that's being described as a superfood has, great nutritional value or great value to the human body in some way or another. And so, hemp is without a doubt, again, it's got to be on the top of every vegetarian's list of most desired daily intake of any particular food, because there's no way to get that protein uh, out of just about anything else. And even if you compare it to soy, there are some issues with soy. One, where the soy came from, because 90% of all soy comes from one particular company's seed. And I think we're all quite familiar with the controversy around that. Unless it's organic soy, chances are you're getting Roundup Ready. I'm surprised they didn't say that on the package of everything that contains soy. Roundup Ready. Ay, ay, ay. Anyway, so of course it's a superfood, and it is something that vegetarians, if they haven't put it into their diet, need to add to their diet almost immediately. What was interesting in this article too is that it said that Germany and the Netherlands have doubled their hemp impact or intake in the last 10 years or so. And I would say that, I'd have to find the American numbers, but I would guess that I bet we're selling twice as much hemp food as we were in the United States 10 years ago. And of course, most of that comes from Canada, if you don't know, because Canada is pretty much the largest grower of grain on the entire planet at this point. They have well established themselves early in the grain game and control a lot of it. And so, yep, hemp is a superfood, but you don't have to wait for it. It's on the shelves at your local grocery store. I would demand it in. Uh, and I think that actually, I think I sent over a little chart um, as well, that this was yeah, here it is, part of this article. And what's interesting, and I didn't notice that they were focusing on bread, but they do mention bread, and I do think that bread and chips and all these things, there's a huge market to incorporate. It doesn't have to replace anything, but I think they can add it in first. And again, it's a nutritional thing. It's not an environmental thing. It's not a shtick. It's a nutritional thing. Food companies should want hemp in their foods because it's good for their customers. Okay, um, pure and simple. And of course, as we know, because 40% of most foods in the grocery store contain um, corn byproducts and don't even digest corn. I realize that there's a lot of companies that really don't care, but if you can convert it, why wouldn't you? Um, uh, you know, and again, I understand it's probably a price thing because hemp grain is probably still a little bit expensive, comparatively speaking. Um, but we keep growing more, we keep making more stuff, and then eventually, that price should also be comparable to anything else. But it's really a nutritional thing. It's like, why wouldn't you want to pay more? Just like the clothing, I always used to tell people, yes, the clothing is expensive because it's a supply and demand. There's a little bit of supply and there's a little bit of demand. But why wouldn't you pay, say, 4 times more for a shirt that was going to last you 4 times longer than what you would probably buy that shirt out of? Um, and again, it wasn't even that. Maybe even our T-shirts maybe are twice as much or 3 times as much as a cheap cotton T-shirt. But it's also a shirt that's going to last you forever if it's even made halfway decently right. And so the same with the food. Like, why wouldn't you want to pay a little bit? I pay more for organic um, because it makes sense to me. I pay more for hemp seed because it makes sense. It's nutritionally a great value to the human body. You know, um, you don't. What you don't want to pay more for is like sugar or things that aren't really great for the body. But either way, um, that's why you want to add hemp into your diet is because it's good for you. Food companies should want to add hemp into their foods because it's good for their consumers. It's healthy. There's nutritional values. The FDA is GRAS, and so you can put that on the label. What nutritional values, the amount of protein that you're getting in percentage wise, the amount of magnesium, because then there's a lot of talk about hemp's magnesium content and how good that is for the human body. But it's also other vitamins and minerals, and omega-6, omega-3 essential fatty acids. So, it's a fun to follow that up with a very fun headline. Hemp milk is here to stay, and the cows are happy. And I'm sure that's true. If I was a cow, I'd be happy to hear that any dairy substitute is more popular, so I don't have to um, mess with being milked. It's probably not that pleasant, honestly. Um, Tasmania getting in on the hempcrete stuff. They're going to build their largest hempcrete structure. And I don't know if they're building it because it also says that this is basically a restoration as well. But it's kind of interesting because it's going to be happening at the University of Tasmania, and they're restoring or rebuilding the Forestry Tasmania building. And if there's ever any irony ever in the construction world, I think rebuilding a building that was called the Forestry building using hemp is one of the most brilliant ironies ever in the history of time. I've always said in my speeches, uh, we can replace anything made out of wood or anything made synthetically out of hemp. Maybe not anything, but a majority of things. Um, and so, using hempcrete instead of wood is great. Honestly, so the trees don't have to be cut down. It is sustainable. Um, Again, because it's basically all all sustainable goods. The hemp is, you can build a hemp house in 6 months, so to speak, out of a hemp crop that grows in 6 months. Um, and so, uh, this doesn't surprise me, other than the fact that Australia and New Zealand, and they're still kind of, Australia just basically as a country legalized industrial hemp. I knew there are regions in Australia that have been growing hemp for a long time. Um, and I know New Zealand is really, I think, jumping on the hemp because they have such limited growth space in New Zealand. So why wouldn't you grow something that can be a food, a fiber for material for clothing, or it can build a house? That is utilization of the ground and farming more than anything else. And that's, another reason why industrial hemp is such a great plant, because you can grow for the grain if you want, and then you still have the fiber and the herd to build a house. It's a triple threat, so to speak, because you got food, fiber, and material, so to speak, all in one plant growing. I don't know why you wouldn't want that. And, the nutritional value, spoke about how good that is, of course. The building materials are comparable to or better than the current um, hemp or concrete. And again, the material, the fiber, strongest natural fiber on the planet, strongest natural fiber. And so, um, that is what it is, and it's the truth of it all, no doubt about it. All right, not a whole lot of events, but you still got a week or two, basically 2 weeks, if you want to get over to Amsterdam for the International Hemp Building. That's October 10th through the 11th. And again, they're going to be demonstrating the Herdmaster MD 1000 Air, which is a micro decortator. And again, that's the machine that breaks the hemp stalk and separates the fiber from the herd, and also the lignin, um, which kind of binds it all together as well. And so, I think a micro decortator, that's the next big machinery. We have some pretty big processing plants here in the United States, and there seems to be more opening up every day in some different state, which is great. It would behoove anyone in any state that's growing even a little bit amount of industrial hemp to have a processing plant, so it doesn't have to travel far to be turned into the raw materials, to be turned into the materials. And they're also going to do a field trip to a massive, their description, massive hempcrete casting project. And so that they're going to be making, and I don't know if they're blocks or pillars or why, I'm not sure what they're really going to be doing, but uh, some type of hempcrete casting one way or another. And then at the end of the month, for the Halloween, which is happening on a Tuesday, which is the normal, it's usually, excuse me, the first Tuesday of the month for the marijuana meetup. Um, but in October, it's going to be the last Tuesday of the month, which happens to be Halloween, for the medical marijuana meetup and this is going to be their annual. This is kind of turned into an annual event. Their costume, and that's kind of my word. I don't know. Costume party. Um, so come up with your best cannabis related um, outfits for that one. And again, you got a whole month to think about it, one way or another. So we'll be talking more about that later as well. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back next Wednesday for the High Noon Hemp Show. Remember, reduce, reuse, recycle. Make everything else out of hemp. Having hemptations.
See you all next week.